everyone, my name is Hannah Garfield. I am one of the programmers for the Woods Hole Film Festival this year, and I'm really excited to be here with the team from Life in Synchro. Thank you for being with us here today for the Q&A. The Woods Hole Film Festival is happening now, and it runs through midnight on August 1st. Before we begin, we would like to thank all of the festival supporters and sponsors. This festival is made possible by the assistance and support of many people, and we hope that we will be able to count on you going forward as we continue to develop the virtual screening platform. A couple of housekeeping items. All films are eligible to receive both an audience and jury award. You can vote for the audience awards for the feature films in the platform. On the home image of each film, you'll see 5 stars next to the box that says watch later. That's where you vote. 1 for the lowest, 5 for the highest. For the short films, we will be sending passes and ticket holders further information about how to vote in the future. During today's Q&A, which will last about 45 minutes, I will be speaking with the filmmakers and the subjects that we are really lucky to have here today for a bit, and then we will open it up to questions from the audience. Please write your questions in the Q&A section, which is on the space bar at the bottom. I will then pass along your questions for response. Please mute your audio. Enjoy, and thank you for joining us today. So we are here with Emily, Peggy, Heidi, and Angela, who are the team from Life in Synchro. I'm gonna have them all in a second introduce themselves and kind of say where they are zooming in from today. Angela, do you wanna start?
Sure. Hi. Thank you, Hannah. My name is Angela Pinaglia. I am calling from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm originally from Miami, and I'm so excited to be here.
All right. Heidi?
I'm Heidi Coffin. I'm in Brunswick, Maine, and this is very exciting. I worked down in Falmouth the year after I graduated from college many moons ago, and I lived in Woods Hole. So this was very exciting that this is the film festival that we're doing.
Well, I'm glad you can return at least virtually. Sorry it's not in person. All right, Peggy?
I am Peggy McDonald, and I reside in Warren, Michigan, but today we are in northern Michigan, enjoying the very warm, humid weather. And I'm very happy to be a part of this group today to find out more about our wonderful documentary.
All right, and then last but not least, we have Emily.
I'm Emily Fitzgerald, and I am currently zooming in from lovely Brighton, Michigan. We are about 30 minutes from Ann Arbor and like an hour and 20 minutes from Detroit, to give you some locations.
Yeah, I've never been to Michigan, so it's kind of nice.
And Brighton is like really
a better idea of where it is.
People just think you're from Detroit always. So.
Of course. So I just want to say I loved Life in Synchro. It was such a joy watching the film. I am a huge sports fan. I'm a huge figure skating fan, and I'd never really heard much about Synchro. So it was really cool to watch a documentary and learn about something that really I hadn't heard or seen much about before. So it was really, thank you so much for making this film. So I guess my first question is for you, Angela. Like, what drew you to wanting to make this film?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I too did not know nothing about Synchro. Didn't know it existed until I met Nicole Davies, which ultimately was the producer on the film. She is a synchro skater and a coach, and she would tell me all the time, "Oh yeah, I'm a synchro skater." And at some point, she was like a national champion, and I just really didn't care. But finally, she convinced me to go see it, and I was actually there filming a little bit for another project, and I'm like, "This is the coolest thing ever. Why didn't you tell me?" And, I had been looking to start a new film. And I'm like, I wonder if something already exists on the sport, because again, I'm not really into sports period, but I couldn't even tell you. I just knew there was something really cool when I first saw it. And it took me a while to figure out what it was about Synchro. And I think I captured that in the movie because it's so much more than what you think it is. Yes, it's skating. Yes, it's this team building sport. Yes, it's about community, but it's so much more complex than that. And that's how I got suckered into it, as I joke. But now I'm totally a synchro evangelist. And we got to get synchro in the Olympics.
I know. Towards the end, I wanted it to happen so bad. And I was so sad in the end when it didn't. So that was one of the questions I was going to ask later, but this is perfect to talk about it now. Where what is kind of the state of getting, is there still a push to get synchro in the Olympics? Is there any, I know there's the next Winter Olympics is in 2022 and then there's 2026. Like, is there any current things going on with trying to get synchro in the Olympics?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, they're still trying. A lot of it has to do with who the host country is. If that team, that country already has synchro in the country. And so, where is word that by 2030 it'll make it into the Olympics, but there's a lot of politics and who knows and things that I don't even know what goes on. But I think Emily can actually talk a little bit more about what goes into whether. Me and Emily have talked about this before, so I'm going to kick it over to her.
Well, so for it to be an Olympic sport, you have to have a few things. You have to have support of your governing body, which for us is the International Skating Union. And we have the support of the ISU. That is how we have the World Championships. They're sanctioned by the ISU. So that was a big success that we accomplished in 2000 when we had the first World Championship. And the next steps are having the support of the IOC, so the Olympic Committee, and the host country. So while we've had support from host countries and different things, like when it was exhibitioned, it's been exhibitioned before, kind of. There wasn't really a lot of like publicity around it or anything. So there's been big successes like the ISU, and there've been a lot of little successes. It just hasn't all happened at the same time to accumulate in a berth at the Olympics yet. So there's definitely still a push for that. This year will be weird because we still don't know like what this season is going to look like. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward, but the push is still there. So
good. I'm supporting it. I really want to see it in the Olympics one day. So kind of how did you end up connecting with Emily and Peggy and Heidi? How did you guys end up wanting to be in this film?
Well, I'll say Emily didn't even know her mom put her in the movie.
Yeah, my momager.
Yeah. So that's how I met Emily, through her mom and her sister, who's also a skater, which is in the documentary, Katie. Heidi and her team reached out to us because I didn't know Maine had a team, and I'm really grateful that they did reach out because that's how I found out that. And then Peggy, I found, Peggy, Peggy's name came up really early in the conversations before I actually met her, but it was really like, I didn't fully understand how important Peggy was until I did more of my research. Because I'm like, wow, Peggy, you were there in 1956. You were there in 1984. You're still there now. Anyway, and so, and they all said yes. And they could talk about how it was on their end, who this crazy lady was. Like, oh, I'm going to film you guys.
Yeah, Heidi, how did your team end up reaching out to Angela?
Well, one of our skaters saw on Facebook that there was an Indiegogo fundraiser for a Life in Synchro. Well, that wasn't the name at the time, but a documentary. And they sent it to me because I'm also the team manager. And I said, I think we need to make a donation. And then I wrote an article. Well, I sent Angela a newspaper article that had come out because we're Maine's only synchronized skating team. So I thought that we were pretty unique. Little did I know that we were really unique. But so I sent her pictures and a newspaper article and said, you know what, we're full of fun. We might be a good match for you.
Yeah, just come out to Maine and film us.
I never in a million years thought that it would go this far and that she would come to Maine with us. She came to Lake Placid with us. She's been to the island with us. She's just one of us.
That's crazy to me. Every time I watch the documentary, I'm like, Angela was really there. Like, Angela was at Heidi's house. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah,
she went to a lot of places.
She was everywhere.
A lot of places.
Yeah, as the director, like, how was it like trying to organize and get footage in so many different locations and then putting it all together? Like, what was that process like?
It was a nightmare, but a fun nightmare. But it was like, wait, it's like, I made the mistake that I think not experienced filmmakers make, where they don't quite know the full story when they're filming. So that's why I kept going to places, right? Because I was like following the story, trying to figure it out, what's going to be my character arcs and all that. But I think I'm so grateful that I did all that, because that's what gave me the coverage, in the movie to make it as compelling as it is. It was definitely tough. And it was all happening in short, like close periods of time, right? Like I was in Lake Placid and then Michigan within a month. There was 3 weekends where I was traveling back to back, and a lot of that was driving, from Maryland to Michigan to New York. Heidi can attest that I was straight up tired at one point. I didn't even film them one day that I was supposed to film them in Lake Placid. I'm like, I gotta go sleep because I had another job. Like this wasn't my only, I was making a living else in another way. So it was definitely a challenge, but a good challenge. And then, we realized we were missing some footage. So I came back and I filmed Peggy and Emily one more time. And then, we made it happen, made it work.
But, well, I'm glad you did make it happen. Because we got to see this film. Heidi?
She even learned how to drive in the snow because she came to Lake Placid and it snowed. She was not happy.
Let me tell well,
we drove an hour and a half to get to a rink to skate.
Oh my God. Look, I'm from Miami, right? Florida. There is no snow. And even living here in Maryland, there's barely any snow, but I had to drive in a lot of snow for this documentary. And I always joke, I always say, if you're not scared, you're not living. And I feel like I live so much in making this documentary.
So Peggy, so you've seen Synchro from the beginning to now. How has the sport changed and grown, and kind of your thoughts on where it started and where it is now?
Well, it has definitely changed tremendously from the very beginning stages of basically being the Rockettes on ice and trying to get your legs kicking high enough and march like you're in a toy soldier number. And then the creative element developing with flows and edges and more dance kinds of things. And then, of course, the way it is portrayed now is just totally unlike, because we really never could let go in our lines and circles. And now we definitely do that. And we added the lifts, which still to me are very scary to watch. And just so many other parts of skating, the pair skating, the dance skating, the free skate. I mean, at one time, I don't know, Emily knows, can you still all, 16 girls do an axel and a block? Do we still do that at all?
I'm waiting for that moment. So many times you get a fake out. You saw 16 in competition. You saw 16 girls do an axle?
I think I did. I think it was European.
Where?
I don't know. Who knows?
I get faked out all the time. I watch no holds and they like pull back like they're gonna do it, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, it's gonna happen!" And then they do like a walk jump into a twizzle, and it's like the biggest like downer, because I'm like, that the team that does it, and it's synchronized and it's beautiful, and there's 16 people doing axles in one direction. It'll be amazing. It'll be so cool.
I mean, the development of the sport has been absolutely tremendous. I mean, if you take out, well, it's probably not even on video, it's probably on 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter film would be the first portrayal of the skating in synchro, and precision team skating as it developed into synchro. So yes, it's been tremendous, as well as numbers. I mean, I had a team of 32 kids on the ice, and now they skate with half of that.
Yeah.
So it's all changed all the way around.
You know what I think would be really cool? If they did like a tribute at some like important competition to look at how the style of skating has actually evolved. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
When they take out that 1984,
really cool.
The 84 performance of my national championship team it's comical now, but it was wonderful then.
But it's so cool. And honestly, I think actually, I would think would be such a fun idea to get 32. I know you probably can't because it's not legal. It's U.S. figure skating legal, but to get 32 skaters on the ice to recreate a no program. Sorry, Hannah, we're going off script. But I think that would be really cool.
I think I love hearing it. I'm sure the audience loves hearing about it all.
But anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Oh. So I guess my next question is kind of going back to Angela. So you mentioned that you didn't really know anything about synchro and skating and all this whole community that you now know so much about. What was that experience like, ingraining yourself in a new community that you didn't know a lot about?
Oh yeah, it was tons of fun. You know, I'm already an extrovert, as these ladies know. So for me, it's very fun to, you know, meet new people. And, you know, I like to talk to people. So it's just naturally very fun. But also, like, you know, you don't know because you're an outsider. Like, are people going to be cool with me? Like, I don't know. Like, you know, you just don't know. But I found everybody was very welcoming, and almost pretty much everybody was willing to talk to me, which is really makes my job really easy, right? So that was tremendous, and I made a lot of great friends, and you know, I'm always catching up with these ladies, and I always joke that I am going to eventually synchronize skate, or even just skate. And at some point, I really hope to do this with one of these people. Hopefully, with all of you guys on the ice at the same time. We would have been all in Lake Placid together back in
I know.
April
Yes.
for Worlds.
Makes me sad.
That was
so
canceled
sad.
because of the coronavirus. And so at that point, I would have skated with you all. But anyway, at some point, yes, we're all going to get on the ice together. And
Okay.
yeah, I just think synchronized skating, it's really not what you think it is. And I think that was, for me, what was really interesting to discover. And again, speaking as an outsider, you have these preconceived notions of what a skater is, a figure skater is. And I felt very much not like, oh, I don't belong to that. But it's so not like that. So, and I think that's all of figure skating. I think there is a misconception about it. Not everybody has it, but if you're an outsider, chances are you think you know what you know about the sport. And what I found was a lot of laid back people who are just really passionate about this. And yeah.
Well, we have our first comment from the audience. So Sarah Nelson said, Angela, I love the documentary. What would you do differently in the much anticipated sequel?
This is coming. Well, I always joke, I already know how it's going to start. The sequel would start when we make it into the Olympics, and Peggy, I'm following Peggy in a car again, and we're going somewhere, right? So
That's fine.
you know, there's a scene that didn't make it in the cut, which is Peggy and Edie, which was another one of the 1956 Hawkettes, and they're standing in front of Dr. Porter's house, which is the founder of the sport, and it's a really fun scene that I'm just sorry that I had to cut it out, but that's probably how it's going to start. And I don't know, it's a great question, Emily's dad. We got to get funding for that to happen.
Hi, Dad.
Well, yeah, I think this sequel definitely needs to include Angela on skates in it somewhere.
Oh, I think so too.
Definitely. She'll skate the torch on at the Olympics.
In a no-hold bar, no-hold block.
I better start learning real soon then. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's me starting a team. A masters,
it only takes one
masters.
person, Angela.
Well, I know. Look at Heidi. You know, I think
know.
that's not in the movie enough. Is that I barely, like, you know, I didn't include that, Hannah, but I think Heidi's really made her team happen in Maine by writing a letter.
And we were none of us were synchro skaters. None of us had ever skated synchro. And we had all been 20 plus years off the ice when the team started. And so, you know, unlike the alumni team in Michigan, we didn't know what a block was. We didn't know how to travel a circle. We didn't even know how to hold on to each other. So this is my 10th year, and it's been an amazing adventure, but every year we get new skaters, and every year they don't know either. So we just all learn it together and have lots of fun.
That's kind of one of the best things about being on a team, is getting to, you know, bring other people into the team as well and teach someone a new sport. I mean, I'm sure that's such a great feeling to be able to share something you love with somebody who's never done it before.
And once a downeaster, always a downeaster. So people, you know, if they can't because of finances or health or family situations or work, it doesn't matter. They can stop. And if we have a traveling fan club. They follow us.
That's so sweet. I love to hear that. I think that also kind of works into my next question, is that something I really loved about, you know, synchro and learning about the sport is that, you know, traditionally, especially team sports are considered to be such a masculine environment. So it's really cool to be introduced to a sport that, you know, was started for women, and it largely involves women. I think that was something that what really drew me to wanting to learn about the sport. And I was interested if that's something that's kind of continued to draw all of you to participating and being involved in it. Think that
Who's going to tackle that? Emily. Let's start with Emily.
Wait, so what am I answering?
Kind of just like how much, I was saying something that I was really interested in learning about was like how it was such a positive female empowerment environment, and kind of how has that affected you in your regular life, and how has that kind of continued to draw you to the sport?
Oh, okay. My apologies. Okay, I got you.
I didn't really answer. I didn't really give a question.
So, I mean, in my personal life, it's definitely made me like I'm very confident. I'm very loud in general as a human being, and I think skating, I've been very closely bonded with a lot of very talented, passionate women, and they just kind of build you up. And when you have that kind of community behind you, even if it's in another world like the skating world, it just goes, you carry it with you everywhere. So that community and that like true image of like what a group of women can do when they're together is something I probably subconsciously think about every day. So that's carried me through life probably. And I am not competitively skating at the moment, but I coach, and I love being able to be that next. I want that for every skater that comes in, even if they skate for like 20 minutes a week, or if they skate for like 1 year of their life, like if they can have one little taste of that community and one ideal of that to fall back on, like that, it's the coolest gift I've ever been given, and I want everybody to have that.
Peggy?
I think too that even take it down quite a few notches down to the younger children, the association, when they opened up the opportunity to have these teams developing on really young ages and put some levels in there that kids didn't have to be on their Olympic quest, that it brought together a really lots more children to experience the sport, and then from experiencing the sport from a younger age and finding that camaraderie and all the good things that team sports can do, which girls, well, they can now, but in my beginning eras, of course, girls couldn't do anything close to having that kind of development. But I think too that all the things that Emily has mentioned, when you start that with the younger child, the confidence building and all the wonderful things that can come from children, that they didn't want to skate alone. They were too shy.
I hated skating alone.
Yeah, they just didn't find any fun in it. And all of a sudden you're going into a locker room, you have a common goal, you want to work hard on this, that, and the other thing. And you have little girls helping each other because I can't do a mohawk. And it just from the very fundamentals and building that through the opportunities that it provides all kids. Now, certainly at the top level, you need to be a top skater, and that's understandable. But what a wonderful thing to strive for, because they become familiar with the leading teams in the nation, and they're even just in their area, whatever it is, that it's just another opportunity that they're given because they're learning how to do it too.
Well, and I think that while like skating on Team USA has definitely helped shape me into who I am, but like the foundation of who I am is definitely rooted in skating like preliminary and open juvenile, and just being like a weird angsty little preteen that everyone's on my feet, like you're all together and you just kind of help morph you in, like you come out the other side like this wonderful enriched person. And I am very thankful that I got to grow up in that environment.
Right.
Could have been a totally different story, y'all, but we're here.
On the other end of it, for us, I think one of the greatest joys that we get, well, our team is like from 25 to 68. So there's a wide age range and lots of life experiences that we can share with the younger ones that help, but the other thing is that every time we skate, somebody comes up to us afterwards and says, I just love watching you skate. It is so inspiring. I can't skate, but I think I can do something else. And the little kids, the parents are saying, look, you can skate all your life. This is not ending now. It's okay. When you're older, you can still be skating and on a team. And and for older adults, especially older women, there's so few things out there that bring you together, that you can do together. Right. And it's just, for everybody, it just is the highlight of everybody's week.
Heidi, I was gonna kind of what you were talking about. I'm 23, and when I was watching kind of your section, I always joke with my parents that I'm mad at them for never enrolling me in like figure skating lessons. I never did skating, but watching your section of the film, I was like, I could do this someday. Maybe not now, but someday I can become a skater someday.
Yes, you can.
We all skated when we were kids. You know, we all skated when we were kids. And whether it was on ponds and lakes or whether it was in an ice rink, but everybody had skated. But the coach said, okay, let's do a mohawk, like Peggy says. And there were some blank faces. So we just go back and do it, and everybody learns at the same time.
Perfect. That's the great thing about being a part of a team. Yeah. We have another question from Emily's dad. Angela, follow up. I'm very interested in how the documentary captured the speed and grace of the skaters. How did your thinking evolve on this?
Yeah. So I think that is one of the challenges to the sport, is that it's so much cooler in person than it ever looks on video, TV, whatever, you know. And it's partly because you have to see it up close. You have to feel it. There's literally like a wall of wind, the sound of like all the blades at the same time. It's just, man, it really is like an immersive experience. So that was the challenge, because when you think about it, synchronized skating is you have to see everybody at the same time to see the formations, but you also still have to kind of do your own version of your close-ups when you yourself are in the audience. Like you can like focus. You could choose to focus on a skater. You could choose to see their facial expressions. And so how do we do that, to translate that for the camera without myself being a skater, or Sarah, who was my cinematographer, not skater. So we did that by putting the camera on people. And so there's scenes where you see Emily that's got the camera attached, and we had a couple of Downey's who also had cameras attached. But I think the challenge still was, I think we still could have done it better. And that's something, if we do get to do it again, we would have skating cinematographers, or perhaps by then I will be a much better skater, because it's so hard to get a sense of the speed that the skaters are moving at, right? There is an element of danger that I think you kind of capture a little bit in the GoPro section, where we see the lift. And I would have liked to have seen that more, because that's what, not that you want to see people fall, but people can fall, people can get hurt. And that just, it elevates the stakes, right? It's this beautiful thing that's also extremely dangerous. And I think this is all of figure skating. When guys are out there playing hockey, or girls, they've got the pads, the helmet, like they are padded up. And most of these women and men are out there with nothing. And it's like, that's impressive. So thanks for the question. Yeah.
Yeah. So how, continuing kind of talking about, like, Angela, of how you film this with so many locations, how big of a team did you have, filming this? And normally when you picture movies, you picture, big giant sets, how many people were part of making this film?
Yeah. Well, this was a very small production, all right? It was very independent. That's my way of saying there was like really 3 to 4 people. I actually say 5 people are involved in making the movie, but most everybody only met 2 or maybe 3, which is me, Nicole, the producer, Sarah, who was my co-cinematographer, and then there's 2 other people behind the scenes who kind of helped bring it all together, which was my colorist, Thomas Huggins, and then my audio mixer, Mike Bass. Wow, I just had the name hiccup. But that's also what allowed me to be so mobile, is that I wasn't moving a team of people around. So I could just go somewhere at a moment's notice, like, oh, this is going down. All right, I'm going to go. Like, toward the end, when we were pretty much done filming, Heidi and the Downeasters were down in Connecticut. I went and literally, it's to shoot one shot, which is when the movie's over and we're like, where are they now? And it's the team, the Downeasters, and John's like, chins up, everyone. Like, anyway, I got that because I was by myself, so it's small things like that. But it was a very small production, and the way I was able to pull it off, honestly, is just I had a lot of, not that I had a lot of time in my hands, but I made the time. I was working part-time teaching at a university while I did this, which allowed me to, to travel as much as I did. And then Sarah would come in and help when I absolutely needed a second camera. So.
Let's see. We've kind of jumped around in my questions a little bit, so I'm looking around, but no, this has been a great, Heidi, we kind of talked a little bit about how you reached out to Angela, but Peggy and Emily, kind of what drew you to wanting to be in this documentary with Angela?
Well, since Peggy is just embedded in the history, so she should go first.
Yes, I was absolutely thrilled that someone wanted to go into the life that I had with Dr. Porter, and my relationship with him in the beginning stages, or the beginnings of the Hawkettes, and following the passion that I had starting then, and obviously going on in coaching and having the successes that I did with the sport that I absolutely, obviously had such a strong passion for, and that there was somebody in the world that wanted to dig into this and really tell the world about how successful this sport is. And knowing how it's grown for the United States figure skating, I know that people really don't know where it all started and how it developed and that kind of thing. And it's important, I think, to give the credit back to Dr. Porter and the people that started, that he worked with, and the girls, and where it went from there, because becoming a world level sport, that's a huge jump from the beginning of skating before the University of Michigan hockey games.
Mm-hmm. Emily, what about you? How did you end up deciding that you wanted to be in this documentary?
Oh, well, I was going back to the first Indiegogo preview. I was at training in Breckenridge for Worlds in 2017 when the first Indiegogo thing kind of came out. And there, in the very first one, there was this beautiful shot of my sister doing a layback. And I was like, oh my God, that's my sister. And I showed everybody at breakfast. And then later that day, my mom was like, oh, well, next time you're home, Angela's going to come over and get some stuff of you and Katie. And Nicole had actually coached my sister. So
okay.
That was a whole connection. And so I met Angela, and we did, I think, one interview in my bedroom and an interview at the rink with my sister, and it was so fun. And then it just kind of morphed into her being like, oh, maybe I'll come to Michigan. And then she came to one of our big training weekends, and then she stayed at my house. And then Angela Bennett and I have been inseparable for 3 years.
Oh, perfect.
Well, Emily didn't know what she got into. I just kept calling. I'm like,
no, I had no idea. She would just be like, oh, I think I'm gonna come to, we call it jazz weekend. She's like, I think I'm gonna come to jazz clinic. And I was like, okay. And she came to dinner with us, and we just hung out, and she'd be like, I think I'm gonna come back. I'd be like, okay. And it just happened. It was super fun. I think Angela was the best person to do it, because it was a completely outside perspective. She didn't have any bias in how she was making it. I think it's really cool that she ended up doing the Peggy story is amazing. Heidi's story is amazing. I like to think I added some humor, and
I think all your
bring
stories
to the table. But she just did an amazing job. It was a really cool thing to be a part of, and I'm very thankful I got to do it.
I think something that I've noticed just kind of in the last 40 minutes being on this call is that really all four of you guys have such a great rapport and really great relationship. And it seems like I think that kind of helps add to how special this documentary is.
And we were supposed to meet.
Right, because they haven't all met. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
No.
Oh
I've met Peggy one time. and I haven't met Heidi. And my parents met John, who is the coach of the Downeasters. But that's it.
Oh, wow.
So that's why we're so
now.
sad that we couldn't meet in Lake Placid like we were all supposed to, right? Like
Yes, it was.
everybody in the movie was pretty much going to be there, and but it's all right. We'll do that at some other point. But just what Emily said about me being an outsider, because I think, you know, when I started making this movie, I thought the story was going to be totally different, because I really thought almost like a traditional sports documentary, you know, where you follow like a competitive season and it's about the top teams and, you know, like the really competitive level. But and I think that's interesting, don't get me wrong, but what I found more fascinating was that there's all these other parts to this, you know, to the sport. And of course there's the development side. You don't think about it because we never see the development side of sports, right? You only see like the elite level athletes, but what does it take to get there? And then also what happens after the fact, right? Because life continues. We don't live in this world. And so we see that a little bit with the Fraserettes, the team that Peggy coached, that have come together as an alumni team now. And
They're
also with
so fun.
Which they're a trip. And then also with the Downeasters, that, you know, like sport serves so many purposes. It's not just this one thing of winning. And I think with Synchro, you see it especially, there's just so much more to it. Obviously, competition is important. Everyone's told me we want to win, but it's okay if we don't, because we're doing this together. And it's that collective activity. And this is where Synchro is so different from almost any other sport, where it's not about one person. It really is about the entire team.
Right.
Not one person's not supposed to stand out. And that's just so opposite of what we're used to seeing in the media, in sports representation. And these are the things, Hannah, that I didn't understand at first. Like I saw it, I'm like, something's different here. I can't put my finger on it. And it took me 3 years to figure that out. And now I can tell you at length, which is there's a lot of things that are different and special about Synchro. And the last thing is that it's mostly women. And not that it, you know, I don't think that it should just stay all women, because I think for true diversity, for the future of the sport, I think we should try to get a team that's half men and half women. That would be amazing. But because it's been mostly women, and in the absence of men, and there are men involved in the sport, I think they're fantastic coaches and skaters, don't get me wrong, but it's in their absence that girls and young women are really allowed to grow in their confidence, you know, and it's only something that a girl can understand and see. Because looking back at this, even though I felt like I never would have belonged in skating, if I can go back in time and join a Synchro team as a little kid, I totally would have, right? Like, and I'm like, you know, this gay little soft butch girl who doesn't really put on makeup, but maybe I would have done it just so I could have had this like confidence development. And so I am married to a woman, and we're, you know, if we have a child, our kid is going to be a Synchro skater, especially
Oh my
if it's a
gosh,
girl.
I want to be there when they are on the ice.
That's when we reunite.
Yes.
The sequel, guys. All right. I'm starting to write
That's
the
how the
script.
sequel opens.
That's right.
I guess, you know, kind of going into the children joining the team, you know, what should, if, you know, a lot of our audience is in Massachusetts, you know, what should they do if somebody watches this film and is like, I want to join a team, or I want my child to join a team? What should they do, or where should they look?
Well, Massachusetts has a lot of skating, which I'm just bringing up my notes. We'll start with, you know,
like a
Katie.
mecca.
Yeah, it really is. It's like
Yes.
Michigan and Massachusetts, right? I think that's fair to say. Those are the two more popular states. So in the Cape, there's actually a team. So, and I want to get this right, so I'm bringing up my notes. They have such a fun name, Icing on the Cape, and they skate out of Bourne Skating Club, figure skating club. But, you know, Katie, Emily's sister, was in Boston, and she skated for Hayden, which we don't go into, but Hayden is like the best team in the country, you know, consistently. They're like the Yankees of the sport. There's actually a lot of skating Synchro in Boston, because there's also Team XL, which is near in Boston, Colonial, which is in Acton. There's University of Massachusetts. There's another one, Boston College, ladies.
Boston University.
Boston University, sorry. I don't know if I missed anything.
I mean, there's a lot of collegiate teams, but then like even like Team XL has like more than one team. So it's hard, because you think about it, like Haydenets have like a million teams and a million skaters. So there's a lot of great opportunities to just be on the ice and to watch skating in Massachusetts. And
there's an annual competition on the Cape Cod Classic.
And it's a great competition.
At Hyannis.
That's about 30 minutes from Woodsall.
In December.
in December. So fingers crossed
It
there'll
is
be a
in
season.
December.
Yeah, who knows if there'll be a season.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah,
Synchro needs, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say kind of how has COVID affected, both the synchronized season and how has it affected kind of this film in general?
Well, we'll start with the season. Heidi, you're...
Well, we're still waiting to hear what they're going to do, whether there's going to be a competitive season or not, whether the season's going to be delayed, postponed, canceled. None of us can make any plans yet until they make that announcement, and they just bumped it to sometime in August.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Very specific. So
Yeah.
we usually start in August skating because we need a lot of practice. But we're not going to start until we hear if there's a season.
And then there are other teams that are
We'll
already...
skate.
Mhm.
If
Go
there's
ahead,
no
Heidi.
season, we will still skate.
I heard just from I don't think it's gossip, but I understood our association is still planning on sectionals and nationals.
I heard that there was like a possibility that it would just be sectionals and nationals, and I was like, that would be insane.
How could you do that?
That would be
just-
because not only I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a minute since I have the opportunity. Not only is that ridiculous because so many teams cannot financially afford to go to sectionals,
Right.
they don't get the opportunity to compete. And then the teams that can financially afford to go to sectionals, if they qualify to go to nationals, like there's usually like 16 to 20 intermediate teams, right? 4 of them qualify to go to nationals from each area. So 1 million skaters are only gonna get to skate one time, and that's ridiculous.
It is.
That is like such a bad idea. I can't. It's better than nothing, but it's not a great idea.
No, because it's also dangerous, because the competitions that you go to before you go to sectionals or nationals really are what you can practice, but a competition is so different, the experience and stuff, that there's going to be people getting hurt if they don't have the build up to it, and it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, 100%. Like if they have nationals in February, it won't be regular February peak performance from all of those teams.
No,
it'll be because they're like the top senior teams have had like virtual tryouts. They know who is on their team. They've been gathering in like smaller groups at rinks that are open to do drills and whatnot. But I mean, it's just not going to be the same.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but
they need to take a hiatus.
Yeah, training year never hurt anybody. Everyone should just practice and come back next year. Great. It'll be fine. Training never hurt anybody.
We did our first season as Down Easters was a non-competitive season, just so people could get used to. We did shows for local skating clubs, but just so people could get used to that. And then we did a competitive season. And I mean, we're not really competitive.
Well, and I think it would speak to the whole like Olympic discussion. Like if the United States is we can hold our own internationally in synchro. But if we had an entire year, not that the other international teams wouldn't also have an entire year, but if we had an entire year to just train off ice and on ice and get all of that like creative choreography flowing and to really think about everything we're doing, we could be in such a different place in a year to re-enter that discussion.
Yeah.
I think it would be very beneficial, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do too.
But they aren't asking us.
No, they should. They should.
Not been on any calls.
All right. Well, I guess we're at time.
Any teacher, what should be happening? So just saying, they never ask the people that they need to ask.
They never do. But thank you. I just want to thank you all again so much for being here. This has been a great discussion, and I've loved being able to talk with all of you today. The Woods Hole Film Festival is still going on. You can still watch Life in Synchro through August 1st. And thank you again to Emily, Peggy, Heidi, and Angela.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.